I want you to imagine a time where you felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. A time where you felt you were a part of something bigger than yourself or a part of a community. Now imagine that place. Imagine what it felt like. What if you could feel that way every day? And what if we could give that feeling away to someone else? That feeling and that joy is exactly how I felt when this picture was taken. This picture was taken on what was called Exhibition Day. It was also known as our school's favorite day or the best day of the year. It was an annual celebration, this sort of outward expression of who we were as a school, not only as individuals, but also as a community. In this picture, I have glitter on my face. I'm wearing a t-shirt I created and was proud of, and I'm dancing just because I was so happy to be there in that moment. All around me, people were showcasing their artwork, their photography, their musical or dramatic performances. People were selling food and clothing they created, and just like me in this picture, everywhere you looked, people were happy. It was a very festive day, and the most beautiful part about the day for me was that every year I was able to look back at my school as this mosaic, as a work of art, as a chaotic collaboration of so many different personalities all coming together to celebrate one another. And it was at that moment that I realized that in just a few weeks, I was going to graduate high school. And it was at that moment that I decided I wanted the rest of the world to feel the way I did right then. One thing that was really special about my school was that the majority of the students there knew they belonged. In fact, this was proven by a district-wide survey in 2015 where 72% of students said they felt they were a part of their school. They knew it was a place to be who they were and still fit in. In fact, even as a freshman, I very much felt that I was a part of my school, and I could see that so many other people felt the same way. There was a culture created there that valued individuality and celebrated our differences and the relationships between them. For example, the leadership class, or the associate student body ASB class I was a part of, was full of kids who were mostly not your stereotypical ASB leader type, i.e. outgoing, big energy, and pumped up about school dances and pep rallies, but they were all equally instrumental in creating events for our school. We had students who were shy, but were very talented at graphic design or filmmaking, students who didn't like to attend dances, but liked to work behind the scenes and piece the logistics of it together to present something to our school. We had students who came from art classes who wanted to do something to celebrate our arts, and athletes who thought of new ways to incorporate athletics into assemblies. And it wasn't just our ASB class, but our entire school beyond that was a hive of diversity. And it fostered a community of different talents and passions and varied pathways to success, each celebrated equally. But there was a key transformative moment for me near the end of my time in high school where I began to realize that this community I enjoyed so much actually had a much more profound impact in the lives of some of my peers than I ever realized. And I want to share that with you today. Because what it taught me was how badly we need a strong sense of belonging. And it taught me this idea that by creating a community where people know they belong and know that they have a place and a purpose, that we could shift the culture of our environments at our schools or our workplaces or wherever it might be and make it a better, safer place. I spent the last 2 years at my high school as a peer counselor, which was kind of like a counselor, except we were peers. And instead of 8 years of school, we went through 20 hours of basic training on how to handle a situation where someone was either suicidal or in another harmful situation, either mental or physical. And we also learned how to start a conversation with someone who really didn't want to talk to us. They would sit there looking at us like this. And one day I met a girl in the office who came in telling me that her friend group started to ignore her and be mean to her. And I met with her for 3 months, and during this time, her situation got progressively worse. Her friends started to exclude her even more. They bullied her. They even ditched her on her own birthday at lunch. And one day, she came into my office sobbing. She told me she couldn't do this anymore, that she was over it, And I asked her, what do you mean? She told me that the night before, she seriously considered taking her own life. And no matter how badly these girls treated her, she told me she couldn't leave them because otherwise she would be completely alone, which is one of her biggest fears in high school. But even in this group, she told me she didn't feel valued, she didn't feel acknowledged, and intentionally or not, they made her feel that her struggles and the things that she went through at home weren't worth anything. And even though she had people in her life, she told me she still felt alone. And loneliness is a common, but a sometimes deadly thing for young people. These last couple of years have taught me so much about our world. From meeting with people who face certain struggles or who work with people who do, focusing specifically on human trafficking, dating violence, and suicide, I began to learn how badly we need community. And the introverts in the room are included. I've talked to sex trafficking survivors. I've watched girls go through eating disorders and recover. I've had a close friend try to take her own life. I've seen multiple people go through severe depression, cutting, suicidal thoughts, and find healing, and it was not because they decided to sit in a room alone and pray about it or take pills. I believe in prayer, and I believe in pills, but maybe we are the answer to those prayers. Because everyone I've met who's found hope and found happiness, found people. They found peers and mentors and teachers who genuinely loved them, who included them, who reminded them every day that they belong here and that healing is possible. Jamie Chakowski is the founder of an organization that raises money for mental health treatment all across the country. And one of the quotes he's most known for is this. He said, "You'll need coffee shops, sunsets and road trips, airplanes and passports, new songs and old ones, people more than anything else. You will need other people, and you will need to be that other person for someone else. To be a living, breathing, screaming invitation to believe better things." We need people. Community is how we heal. The girl I met with, after she told me she was suicidal, after she opened up to me, we talked about it for a while, but then we went to her professional counselor together. We called her dad, and we got her the help that she needed. But after that, 2 weeks passed before I called her back into my office to check on her and make sure she was okay. And for the first time, I saw her genuinely happy, which made me happy. But it also caught me a little bit off guard. So I asked her about her week, asked her what was different. She told me she wasn't hanging out with her old friend group. She wasn't ignoring them or being mean to them, but she wasn't making a conscious effort to stay in a group she knew probably wasn't healthy for her. Instead, she was getting more plugged into her school drama class and making friends in there. And she told me exactly like this, sitting on the couch facing me, "I'm the marketing director now." And she also said she couldn't talk for long because she had to run back to class and paint birds on a poster or something. And the point is, she was finally happy. And the most notable difference in her life was that now she had a place where she knew she belonged, with friends who loved her, who included her, people she could talk to about her life, and the struggles that came with it, not just people that pretended she didn't exist. And this girl isn't alone. Hearing this girl's story after she was recovering was one of a handful of transformative moments that, for me, that occurred in the peer counseling office. Moments where I went from loving my school and wanting everything to do with it to truly understanding the power of belonging to a community that values you, that listens to you, and that gives you a place and a purpose. And before I walk off this little red circle today, I want to tell you something I loved about my school. In its DNA, it was a place where people were constantly saying to one another, join a club, join a team, create something, create yourself, create this school with us because you're here for a reason and you have something valuable to add to the table. And the reason I'm telling you this is because this type of community, the one that I found in my high school, the one that this girl found in her drama class, the inclusivity of this sort of environment is life-changing. But I also want you to notice that this community, it's not a body. It's not a body with hands and feet and a head, and every piece has a specific purpose, but rather it's a mosaic. with oddly shaped pieces with different colors and talents and dreams and ambitions, and sometimes that may involve skipping class to go surfing. Not me. And when all these pieces come together, we can look back at it and say, look at this. Look at our school. Look at what we created together, because it's beautiful. And I want you to see it. And I want you to see that every piece on its own is unique and beautiful in its own way. But look how this piece complements this one, and how these two fit perfectly together in this way over here. And although they're all so different, they all belong here. And you belong here too. And you belong here too. Going back to that graph I showed you earlier, 72% of kids at my school felt that they were a part of it. But even though 72 is a big number, so is 28. So is the other 28%. Because that means that in 2015, over 500 kids came to my school, and for them, it wasn't a place where they belonged. And I believe some of the people in your life feel the same way. Some of your classmates, some of your coworkers, or some of your peers feel alone, and they need someone to invite them to lunch. For someone to hear their story, hear about their passions, listen to their ideas, and learn about what makes them different. And just imagine with me a place where eccentricity is encouraged, where struggles are acknowledged, and people are supported. Imagine a place where people are celebrated for their differences and brought into the fold to collaborate and create something beautiful. These places and these circles do exist. But there are people in your life who simply need to be invited in. So invite them in. And let's make the world a more beautiful and a more colorful mosaic together.